Hi, Jamie.
Hello.
I'm so excited to be talking with you today. We were just debriefing before this, and I think that we have some amazing things ahead to talk about and to share with everybody. I'm grinning from ear to ear. I love getting to connect with your energy, and we've been friends for a very long time. That we've been with each other for through a lot of ups and downs, and there's just been a lot that's happened throughout our lives. And I'm just really excited to get to unpack the wisdom that you have to share with people, part of your story, and what you really believe to be true, and how you are today and how you help and support people. So, before we get into it, diving into all of that, can you just give us a brief overview of who you are and what you do?
Yes, definitely. I am an artist, a breathwork practitioner, a speaker. I love to just share even more love in this world and how we can access more love, and my own personal creativity that has emerged through my photography. My Coastal Calm collection is a way to help people calm their nervous system through visuals. And then I also pair breathwork meditations with the art, guide seminars on how to reduce stress. I
So
just love
beautiful.
sharing. Yes.
Yes. Yes, you're so, it's such a beautiful journey to have witnessed you going from phase to phase to be like, who am I and what do I do and how do I combine all these things together? And I remember when you were really getting into breath work, and that's been a big part of your journey. And I think a lot of people nowadays recognize how important breath work is and that it's significant for our health and our nervous system. What has been one of the most impactful things for you about becoming a breathwork facilitator and practitioner?
Absolutely. It was the first session of breathwork that I tried where it was such a visceral experience, unlike anything else I'd ever experienced in my life.
Hmm.
I had been on a journey since I was, let's say, a teenager of how do I find inner peace? How do I feel good in my body? How do I feel like I'm just me and being my truest essence? And I had been in therapy for 15 years. I had read so many books, and of course, they'd all helped. But it wasn't until I did breath work that I actually felt within myself just so light, so blissful, so incredible. And the shift in that hour and a half of my first session was phenomenal. So I I know that I knew in that moment, but it took me a little bit to actually become a practitioner. And in that, oh my goodness, it is so fulfilling to share this incredible practice with others, because again, it's unlike anything else. And
Hmm.
especially for those who have a hard time, let's say meditating, where it takes a lot, meditation is learned, and sometimes the mind can get more chatty before it actually gets calm. But
Oh,
breath
yeah.
work can just take us to that calm place so quickly,
Mm.
and to guide people to heal themselves, because this is not me healing them, it's them healing themselves through learning this practice.
Mm.
And it's
So good.
reclaiming our own power to know that I don't have to go seek out help from all these people. I can take my own health into my own hands and use this natural power of breath to realign and reharmonize myself. So,
Yeah.
yes, I could go on and on. It's
Woo!
so good. I
I
love it.
feel all the chills moving through my body. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
everything you're saying is so good. I love that. Okay, one thing that's sticking out to me is that you said that your first session was an hour and a half. What was that like? That sounds like intense. Is that the type of facilitating that you do too? Like you're breathing for an hour and a half?
Yes, yes, an
Wow.
hour to an hour and a half,
I
hour and
mean,
a half
and when
in
I say
total. Yes.
breathing, obviously we're breathing all the time, but
Yes,
like,
and that's the incredible thing, right? Is we are breathing all the time, and our breath is actually one of the only systems where we can control it, and it happens automatically. So when we decide to begin to control our breath, that's when we can choose the outcome of that breath. And
Wow,
yes,
powerful.
you're so right. There's all different types of breath work. It's a big umbrella. If you think about yoga, there's yoga nidra, there's sculpt yoga, there's vinyasa, there's all these different types with all different intentions. And it's the same with breath work. So we can do breath work that's 30 seconds long to be energizing and be that replacement for a cup of coffee in the afternoon. Or we can do an hour and a half long session that is deeply allowing trauma to release and emerge. Or we can do 30 minutes of calm breathing. There's so many variations, and that's why it's also so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. What would be some like types of breathing? Like, with yoga, you said nidra and vinyasa and all that. What are the actual names of different types of breathwork techniques?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Most people have heard of box breathing. There's a 4-7-8 method. There's continuous conscious breathing. There's the 3-part breath. So there's a lot of, and then different practitioners have kind of trademarked different types of
Right.
breathing too. So there's, people are familiar with Wim Hof, which is also a type and a practice. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there any that are your favorite or that you found to be most effective in working with people and with yourself?
Yeah, I love the 3-part breath. So that's all in and out of the mouth. And that's different than we'd want to breathe in everyday breathing. But what it does is it's 2 breaths in and 1 breath out. And it really allows deep emotion, deep trauma that's maybe been stuck in our bodies for a lot of our lives to really release. So people tend to have an emotional experience with that, but on the other side of the emotions coming out is that lightness. And for me, that was me. I knew I had emotion stuck inside of me. And I remember even one time I thought to myself, what video could I look up online that would make me cry? So I remember looking up, like cute puppies or sad video, or just knowing that we are meant to feel. And in today's society, you have this whole spectrum of emotion, but only certain ones are allowed.
Right.
And I know in my upbringing, it wasn't always encouraged for me to have certain emotions. And so what did I do? I just stuffed them down.
Totally.
Oh, I'm about to feel that. Nope,
No,
not going to feel
wrong.
that.
Nope.
Not going to feel that. Let me go distract myself. Let me go find something to soothe myself. And that's when we start reaching for things, because when that gets stuck inside of us, and I know you know this,
Totally.
when these things get stuck inside of us, these emotions that aren't being allowed to flow through us, they start to cause this disconnect. It becomes a block and a barrier between our true self and so we don't have access to that truth anymore. We don't have access to our pure loving essence. And so we start to feel off, we start to feel weird, something's wrong, just uncomfortable. And typically humans start then reaching for the drink, the extra food, the scrolling, the shopping, whatever it is to distract us, the overworking. None of those things are bad in and of themselves, only when we start to overuse and abuse and use them as a numbing tool so that we don't feel how painful it is to be disconnected from our essence.
Right, which is like one of the most painful things I think we could ever experience, that we don't actually have words for, but that's really what's going on at the deepest level. Oh, you said that so well. I'm like, oh, my whole body's like lit up, and I'm also like, okay, breathe.
Yes.
So the disconnect that I think that we feel, I mean, maybe we'll just go here with it. Like the emotion that gets bottled up in our body, that has a huge impact on our nervous system. You were talking a little bit earlier about like the fight or flight and the impact of that. Can you tell me more about your thoughts on that?
Yes. So of course, nervous system. It's a big buzzword right
Yep.
now for
Everyone
sure.
loves
And we
it.
have two. We have the parasympathetic nervous system, and we have the sympathetic nervous system, and both are important. So we don't want to say that one is better than the other. The thing that's happening with us as humans in 2025 now is there is so much stress, and stress leads us to engage our sympathetic nervous system. Now, back in the day, we needed that because let's say a bear was about to chase us. We have to tap in to that. We have to get that cortisol going. We flood our body with everything that it needs to run from that bear and get away as fast as possible. So we're not focused on creativity at that point. You know, you're not thinking about a painting you're going to do. You're not thinking about loving another human at that point. You're not thinking about your body isn't focused on digestion, any of those things. You're not thinking about, you're not trying to sleep in the sympathetic state. But in today's world, there's so much stress. We're being fed stressful things from all over the world. Then you have toxins, you know, we have the physical stress, we have the mental stress, we have financial stress. It's so much. So what happens is the nervous system tends to just get stuck in the sympathetic state.
Right.
Instead of getting into sympathetic, coming back to parasympathetic. Getting stressed, coming back, getting stressed, coming back. So we're not coming back to that restful state. So it makes sense that it's hard for people to sleep. They're just naturally feeling this continuous uncomfortable.
Like
I gotta go. Yeah, gotta go. And that's where breathwork can come in again, where it's up to us. It's up to us to choose and decide and say, hey, if I just continue to attune to the world, I'm going to be stressed. I'm going to be stuck in a sympathetic state.
And I love how you say that. Like if I'm tuned to the world, then I'm stressed because the world in a lot of ways is very stressful. That's so good.
Right. And I'm also not saying that that's the only thing that's out there in the world, but in any of this, we get to decide and choose what we start to see and how we start to be. And breathe. So what are we seeing? The world is stressful. Yes, if we attune to it, but what if we start looking at the clouds? We start looking for the flower, but we have to choose that. Because the brain is automatically going to go to the stress, to the negative, to the on the lookout for that bear.
Right, for protection mechanism purposes and survival. It's like the reptilian brain that's like, I have to be in control and be safe all the time, so I'm scanning my environment. But yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. Yep.
Right,
so we
turn off.
Take these moments or longer sessions, let's say, you know, whether that's, one breath to begin to to engage the parasympathetic nervous system, or it's taking an hour on an evening to engage. But it really has to be done. If that's what you want in your life is more calm, it really has to be done consciously. It's not going to happen automatically.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting. Well, and I feel like in today's day and age, we have a lot of people that struggle with physical ailments, whether it's an illness or it's a disease or it's a digestive problem or it's, constipation or headaches or whatever it is. Like, I feel like we're in an epidemic of like physical dis-ease.
Yes.
And we keep trying to blame all these different things, like it's the food and it's the toxins. And obviously, I'm a huge believer that those are very impactful. But to your point, it's like it's the stress every single day that we're exposing ourselves to, and we're not restoring after the stressful event. We're just staying stuck in that sympathetic state, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, gut issues, back pain, skin
Both
issues.
that I have. I'm like, yep, actively working on that.
We're never immune to these things. It's not like I am, totally immune to stress either, but I
Yeah.
catch myself and I take the time to do the practices and
Yes, I know. I have an Aura ring, and
yes.
it tells me how many minutes or hours I spend in the day stressed, like physiological stress. I
Whoa.
don't realize that I'm mentally stressed until my physiological stress is like off the chart. And then it will also tell me how I'm spending time restoring. And my balance is off. And I've been working on getting it more in balance. And to be quite honest, like I actually do have decent scores, but I have built a lifestyle to support that. And I don't say this to impress anybody, just to impress upon you that to what you're saying, Jamie, that we don't spend time restoring enough.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we spend so much time stressed. And it's like, I don't actually think people know how to spend time restoring. Because even if you go lay on a couch or you go on your bed or, whatever, you're going to pick up your phone and you're going to scroll or
Yeah.
you're going to check an email. Or these are things sometimes that I might do. I don't really scroll,
Yes.
but you're going to do something that keeps you activated. So I feel like going back to the breath thing, that's something like you've been saying that you have with you all the time. You
Hmm.
don't have to pay for it, you don't have to go get it. It's always there, it's always
Yeah,
available, and it can really facilitate that restoration process. So I'm just
absolutely.
curious, like if you were facilitating somebody to help them restore, what would you lead them through or how would you suggest that they do that?
Hmm. First, I would start with the very basic and I would say almost the most impactful, and that is everyday breathing.
Mm,
Again, it goes back to we are breathing all day long, but we're typically not thinking about it. We're not consciously breathing.
mm,
And many people are breathing in and out of their mouth. So it's really important. There are a couple things that one can do to engage the parasympathetic nervous system, engage the calming effect on a daily basis. And the first one is nose breathing or nasal breathing, the
mm,
breathing in and out of the nose. Now, that is going to help so many parts of our health, our mental health, our physical health. It's first of all, it's filtering the air. So
mm. Okay.
imagine all that's in the air. It's getting filtered when it goes through the nose. It's not getting filtered when it goes through the mouth.
That's so
It's
true. Wow.
it's warming the air.
Oh, I never thought
It
about that.
yeah, which is easier for your lungs. It when the air travels through the nasal passage, nitric oxide is produced. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator, so that's going to mean that your lungs and your cells are all going to be able to receive more oxygen. And we know that oxygen is so nourishing for all of us and all our cells. They needs more and more.
Hmm.
Also, I love this. Nitric oxide is it kills viruses. Kills viruses.
I didn't know that.
So
So
what
literally
better
breathing can
way?
help you kill viruses.
Literally breathing is one of the most important things to ensure that you don't get sick.
Wow. Breathing through the nose specifically, right?
Yes,
Okay.
breathing through the nose. So this means all day, all night. This is where people have now started taping their mouth at night with a piece of tape from here to here. That's a great way to
Mm.
start.
Hmm.
It's good to remember that your nasal passage is a muscle. So if it feels hard to breathe through your nose right now, don't be discouraged. Keep practicing. Try it during the day. Then maybe you begin to try it at night or even try taping your mouth shut at night. But
Mm.
just bringing your awareness to that breath.
Hmm.
And then furthermore, slowing it down. We're often breathing quickly, and that is going to engage the sympathetic nervous system. Slowing it down gives us that calm with the parasympathetic. So ideally, we have 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out,
Mm.
focusing on the exhale. So
Okay.
often we are focused on the inhale, right? Something happens, everyone says, just breathe, just breathe. Well, actually, that if you're just taking a deep, a shallow breath into your chest, like people do when they're in a panic, that's
Hmm.
actually not going to help.
Right.
So
Like
we actually want,
hyperventilating.
yes, and that actually creates its own cycle of anxiety, more hyperventilation.
Mm.
And we want to stop that, breathe slow and deep into the belly through the
Mm.
nose,
Okay.
focusing on a long exhale, focusing on really expelling all that air.
Mm. Would it be appropriate to like squeeze your abdomen to push the extra air out, or is it just you're wanting it to just be very natural, like how you would do it without thinking about it, but thinking about it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. That's a great way to do it. So at first, when you're really beginning, we call this diaphragmatic breathing. So it's think of it as your belly expanding, which for a lot of people is really uncomfortable. It's not very natural. So, but when we're expanding the belly, the diaphragm is naturally working more than when we're just breathing into our chest. So yes, breathing in, expanding the belly, and then you can even, have that exaggerated contraction to
Mm.
expel the air
Okay.
out. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said like 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out through
Yeah.
the nose, filling up the belly. So like the air
Mm-hmm.
is coming into the lungs, but how do you actually fill up the belly if the air is going into the lungs?
You're not actually filling the belly. It's just that the belly is expanding when the diaphragm moves, when you're really filling those bottom lobes of the lungs. So it's an
Gotcha.
expression. It's not like you're actually breathing into the belly.
Okay, gotcha. I
But
actually have
that
always
is,
wondered about that. I'm like, obviously
yeah,
I know the
yeah.
air is
You're
not going into
not
the
you're not
belly.
the only one. So I'm glad we cleared that up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So you're just kind of using the muscles in the belly to expand the belly and then
Yeah.
to contract it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but really focus on that inhale and then you can just let it go. You don't have to contract anything. Just breathe in deeply, let it go. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, very good. And is there anything that, like, if a person were to just do this for 5 minutes to help them restore, should they be thinking about anything or looking at anything? I know you said that you have, when you facilitate, you have people looking at your art, which is amazing. And I want to get into some of your creativity and what that means to you. But would you suggest if somebody wanted to do this at home that might be maybe can't come to a facilitation or whatever? That they just look at something or have their eyes closed.
It's really, yeah, I mean, this is, of course, a practice to be able to breathe this way all day long. We'll get into a couple other exercises that people can do.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, yeah, so whatever feels good. If that's closing your eyes and just really, being with that breath without any other distractions. If that's looking out at one of my coastal calm photography pieces, out at the picture of the ocean, if
Mm-hmm.
that's helpful, great. If it's looking at your favorite plant in the corner, um, yeah, and in different situations, I always encourage people to just, like begin to allow the awareness to drop out of the head and into the heart. So you can just bring your awareness down, and it might sound interesting or different, but just beginning to witness the breath. So just focusing on the breath, and naturally the thoughts will not be so strong. And
Mm-hmm.
as this breath pattern moves, really anytime we're consciously breathing, you'll typically notice that the monkey mind begins to dissipate. And
Right.
of course, the longer and the more intense the breath pattern, it absolutely begins to really even shut off. So
Mm.
those parts of our brain that are in overdrive begin to really deactivate, especially like the amygdala that's just responsible for emotions, but it really goes on high alert. It's always looking out for us. It's trying to help us, but it's really just in fear mode, looking for what's scary. It's just like, is that scary? Is that scary? Is that scary? Is that scary? And as more scary things have happened in our life, it goes on even higher alert because it's just, again, trying to protect us. It's just saying, I don't want bad things to happen to you. It's really trying to
Oh, so
make
sad.
sure. Yeah. But because of that, it just gets overactive, and then it's also activating the sympathetic nervous system. It's activating that fight or flight state. So again, that's, the more little traumatic events we have, the more big traumatic events we have, the higher alert. So again, we just get in this cycle, and that's where we get to say, okay, I love you, amygdala, and we're going to take a break right now.
We're going to just calm you down.
Yeah.
Drop you down.
Yeah. And without that forcing or getting mad at it or,
right.
Beating yourself up. It's just, no, we're going to take some deep breaths. We're going to, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had two thoughts come to me. One, I have like a ginormous 3-part, I guess it's a picture of a lake in Canada that not only A is a manifestation that I'm bringing forward because I want to go there physically in person. It's like amazing. And B, because I feel so good when I look at it. So sometimes I lay in my bed, and I asked you that question earlier because I'm like, I think I do that actually now that I think of it. I like stare at that and I just breathe and I teleport myself there, and I feel like I can touch the water, and I can, walk along the rocks and look at the trees and smell the air, and I'm breathing while I do that, and I can become more conscious of my breath while I do it. But like to your point, I think that the photography and the art that you can absorb while you do that can have even like amplification effects on the breathing and on the restoration and on calming the self down. So that was one thought, and we might be able to kind of rabbit hole that one. And then the second thought that I had that came forward when you were talking is I used to do Wim Hof breathing like every Saturday for 6 to 8 months. I don't even remember, but it was a long time. And I loved it. It was really intense. So I kind of have a twofold question for you on this thread. One, like what your opinion is of really intense breath work and the frequency of it, if that's beneficial, if it's not, if it's, too much or too little or whatever. And then my second part of my question, so the first part is like if intense type of breathing, if people don't know what Wim Hof breathing is, essentially how I did it, which I think a lot of people experience this differently, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we almost basically like hyperventilated ourselves, and we were breathing in and out really, really fast. And then I would hold my breath and squeeze my body, and I would have this like crazy rush of intense chemicals from my brain, and then I would relax and let it go. And I like felt high the rest of the day, and it was incredible and amazing. I was just like, and I almost kind of got addicted to it, which is why I did it every Saturday with a big group of people too. It's like kind of different when I've done it by myself. But what's your opinion on like those high intensity type of breathing exercises?
Yes, I love this question. I love the high intensity in certain times. Now it's so easy to say, oh, that is for everyone. And I don't agree. I do not agree that it is for everyone. Yeah. It is something that if someone is in we all have a window of tolerance. And that means how tender is our nervous system right now? How alert is our amygdala? How much capacity do we have to feel and work through our trauma? And it's different for everyone. So I actually want to say that to throw just everyone into that type of breathing is in my opinion, not appropriate at all, and can actually cause more trauma. I love these similar kinds of breath work that release trauma. This is what I guide in my longer sessions. And I'm also very intentional about who's in the session, and I'm watching, I'm guiding. If it's sending them into a place that feels like it's too much, I will advise them to try a different breath pattern. Again, we have these different levels.
Right.
So yes, again, there are these patterns like the 3-part breath that activate and invigorate, and you can think about it in the way that you wouldn't want to breathe this way all day, every day. That's why I started with sharing how we want to breathe through the nose. But these other patterns can really stir things up inside of us. And you imagine if all these things have been suppressed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And our body's just been on high alert running from the bear. It's not wanting to process emotion. There's no space for processing trauma. But when we begin to allow the body to process the trauma, release some of the emotion, reharmonize within, little by little, as each person is ready to, the analogy of the onion is frequently used, little by little. So you also wouldn't want to put just anyone in an ice bath. Ice baths are great. Cold therapy is amazing, but it's not for everyone.
Mm,
We really
right.
want to assess where the nervous system is at and not go overboard and
Right.
really allow just little by little to unfold. So I tend to take a more feminine approach if I'm compared to Wim Hof, let's say,
Yeah.
and he has helped so many people, and he's so great. He's a little bit more caveman than I am, and that's great for some people and not necessarily for others.
Yeah.
And some people, it's helpful to have someone yelling and encouraging. And again, I just take a little bit of a different approach where I'm here to hold, deep space and allow whatever wants to come up and just make sure that it's really safe, and we're not trying to go harder than we need to go. And when we hit that window of tolerance where it's just like, we want to be uncomfortable a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't need to push harder. I use the analogy of if you're on a run and sometimes if your knee starts hurting and you just keep pushing through because you feel like you have to, and it's almost just this force, well, you're going to hurt yourself. And it's the same emotionally. If you're processing trauma and you're like, I need to process more, I need to like get at this harder, that's more judgment, that's more criticism. No, I'm here to facilitate us giving our trauma and our hurt parts just more love, more love, more
Mm-hmm.
love, more space, more curiosity, more just allowance,
Mm.
and
So
not trying to
beautiful.
force it or make it be anything in particular. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess to just further emphasize, because people often ask, where should I go? What practitioner is best? And it's really, I invite you to follow, whoever is listening, follow your intuition. If you feel good, if you feel like you just want to go be in the presence of that practitioner and you feel safe with them, that's who to choose. If anything in you doesn't feel like it's right, don't go. There's so many practitioners, and there's someone for everyone.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm like, I just feel how much you represent love and that you give that so freely and generously to everyone. And I just like, I'm receiving, I'm like, oh, that feels good. And when I've done breathing with you in the past, I'm like, oh, wow, this is really, really powerful. Like you do hold a very, very unique and powerful and loving space more than anyone that I've really ever experienced with breath work. And it's so amazing to witness you in that space because it does feel like it's your passion and it's where you're powerful and it's like part of your purpose. And I do believe that when we're in that place, then that also facilitates the healing, and
Yeah,
when someone just resonates with you and you them, it just creates this harmony of upward spiral and of the healing work that is meant to transpire. So I just love that. And
yeah,
I'm so in awe of you. And I appreciate that it's like it's not a one size fits all. I think
yeah,
that a lot of times people will think like, oh, it's just breathing, it's not a big deal. But like it's a big deal. There's like a
yeah,
lot that can come up in a session or when you do consciously focus on your actual breathing. And in ancient cultures, breathing has been a part of their, you know, I don't even know what you'd call it, their culture, it's always been with us is what I'm trying to say. And so, yeah, it's not a one size fits all. I had one other question for, because I want to ask you about like your creativity and stuff too, because it all ties in, I feel like. Um, but if somebody doesn't necessarily feel the impact of consciously breathing or of doing maybe a breathwork session or whatever, like what would you tell them? Do they just need to keep trying it? Or do you think maybe they're not doing it in a way that's actually facilitating what's best for their nervous system? Or like, how would you respond to someone who's like, yeah, that doesn't really work for me?
Yeah, great question. I would probably ask more questions, ask what pattern they've tried. I think you're spot on in that perhaps that pattern, let's just say they've tried one pattern and they say, oh, it doesn't work for me. That pattern might not have been appropriate for them. Again, let's say someone is very susceptible to anxiety and they actually don't have the capacity to breathe into their belly, or so different patterns aren't going to be suitable for them just yet until they build that capacity and build the muscle and the diaphragm begins to work in a new way. Because like there's so many pieces to this. Trauma when we're younger can actually freeze our diaphragm into a constricted state where it doesn't actually allow the breath to fully go into the lungs and work the way it was intended to.
Interesting.
So then diaphragmatic breathing is really hard, and chest breathing naturally happens, and chest breathing causes anxiety. So again, it's this. Yeah, so I would guide them to try a different pattern and slow it down. And let's say I'll tie this in right now. The 4-7-8 method is a great practice. So that's breathing 4 breaths in, 4 counts in, holding for 7, and breathing out for 8.
Oh,
It's
wow. Okay.
slow, it's gentle, it is calming overall for most people, but again, everyone's system is different. So I would, our breath is meant to support us. That's for sure. As humans, it's not like, oh yeah, breathing doesn't work for you because everyone breathes. It's different than if we're talking about a different modality, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we have our breath, we have that power, we have that channel. It's just a matter of how we decide to turn it on and use it and allow it to work for us and with us.
Okay. I love that. I think that's super powerful. Okay, if any of you out there that haven't tried breathing yet, I hope that this is enrolling you into it because like it's so good.
It's so
Yeah,
good.
I for some reason, like me personally, I get a lot of benefit out of the patterns that I hold my breath.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's doing exactly, but I've just noticed that like even when I did like the really intense Wim Hof breathing, when I'd hold my breath, it did something. And then like even like what you were just describing, literally as you were describing it, I just practiced it and I'm like, oh man, it's when I do the hold that I feel the most sensations. Why would
Yeah.
that be? What is that?
Yeah, it's really allowing the shifts in the biochemistry to change. And then there's a whole, like magical side of this that's just unexplained, the energetic
Yes.
side of it. So typically a breath hold is going to take us into a little bit of a tingly, airy, heightened state. And then a breath hold with no air in our lungs is going to really like root us down and ground us
Oh,
more.
that's so interesting because I don't like that one. If I breathe all my air out and hold it, it's really hard. But if I breathe all my air in and hold it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm totally comfortable here.
And that's where we can also look at, everyone's system is different, like where we feel more comfortable. Some people are more comfortable being ethereal. Some people are more comfortable being in the earth and the ground. And
Yes.
that's where, we don't always want to just say, oh, well, that's uncomfortable, I'm going to scoot it to the side. Because maybe the place where it's uncomfortable, the rooting down, is actually where our work is to balance our systems.
Yep, I think that's for me. I love that. Oh, so good. So how have you tied this into your like creative expression? Because I know that you love photography and you have your Coastal Calm collection. Like we were talking about this a little bit before about like your creative expression and how like if we're in our nervous system sympathetic all the time that we can't really be that part of ourselves and express that truest essence of ourselves. What have you discovered like personally and guiding people on their journey that when they instill breath work into their practice that it like what does it help them with in regards to all of that?
Yeah, I love this so much. And, there's so many benefits of breath work. Again,
Yes.
the mental health, the physical health. But I love this, and I call this the truest essence part, the part where we allow our truest essence to emerge even more. Because when we're stuck in sympathetic state, again, like I said, we're not worried about being creative. We're not worried about our truest essence, our own magical frequency coming out. It's not a priority at all.
Yeah.
And to be honest, this wasn't a journey that I set out on specifically. I believe deep within me, my intention of being on earth is to live it out in all the ways and to my greatest potential. And breathwork has led me to, it has been a facilitator of that and a way for me to unlock new parts of me. So what do I mean by that? I'm using myself as an example, as I did more and more breath work and other tools, it's not the only tool out there to calm the nervous system. I dropped out of that sympathetic state, and then that's when the creativity begins to emerge, when we're in that calm, when we're in the parasympathetic state. So when I was younger, I said that I was not creative at all. I loved math. I loved science. I thought I was just going to be a scientist working in a lab,
Wow.
pipetting. And I was like, I'm not an artist at all. I don't even like to write, all these things. And sure enough, that's absolutely not true. I mean, looking back, I also loved to decorate my room, and I chose all the colors so diligently. And I asked for a Polaroid camera for a birthday when I was really young. So it was there. I just didn't realize it. And as I just let myself open up and be instead of stuck in the stress, I naturally began to gravitate more towards taking photos, allowing this artistic side of me to emerge, my love for the ocean, and turning it again into my photography, which it's like a painting of my camera, really. Mm-hmm. These are my photography paintings. Mm-hmm. But the best part is that I realized in this whole unfolding and in guiding others that everyone is creative. Every single human is creative. Now, I know people will challenge me on that and they'll say, no, I'm not creative. And I don't believe it, because everyone is creative when they're younger. We dance, we sing, we play, we come up with imaginative thoughts, we do art without any second thought. And then we start to grow up, and it's all these filters come in, and we start calibrating to the world, and we wonder, well, am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to be that? Am I a good singer? Am I a bad singer? Am I a good artist? Am I a bad artist? And then the stress comes in. And so these parts of us get shut down, this creative part of us. And we actually begin to believe that we're not creative at all. But it's really just that part of the brain has been turned off and suppressed. So I have had participants after breathwork tell me they have driven straight to an open mic. They haven't sang in years and they just felt the urge. I've had people say they just went home and painted because they just had the urge. I've had people have spontaneous healings in their body, just knee pain that's been there for years suddenly go away. I've had people tell me they have a new vision for their life that just became clear once the stress moves away, because our cognitive function also shuts down when we're in that sympathetic state, and our ability to dream and vision. And you know me, I'm here for the magical moments. Like, I get that life can be oh so painful and oh so hard, and you and I both know I've been there so deeply, and and that is, you know, there's beauty in that, and we are here to express ourselves and really
Yes.
be our truest essence. And the pain comes when, in my experience, the most painful times are when I didn't allow myself, I was denying myself my own essence to be shared. And
Wow.
that's, so when we're denying our own creativity, we are dying.
Boom, mic drop. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, my body's tingly. It is so true. I feel like our creative expression is our beingness.
Yes.
It's like, I think a lot of people have this idea that creativity has to be a form of like painting, like literally specifically doing a quote unquote art, but like creativity could also be thinking up a machine, like,
Yes.
or how like an engineer, right? Like my brother-in-law, you know, Mike, he like invents technology, which is very creative, but it's very scientific.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, you don't have to separate the two out. The creativity is like, what is your truest self, like you're describing? And it's like that just has been so buried and stuffed with, to your point, all the stress and all these emotions and the traumas and the belief systems that people have that they can't be their truest self. And it's almost like I'm feeling this so strongly now that like breathwork is like the key that unlocks that. And it just takes you so much further to be your truest self than really anything might.
Yeah. Yeah. And the creativity is in, you know, one of my ways to express my creativity is gathering others, like getting
Yes.
people together, or maybe it's gardening, or maybe it's planning a new hike, or there's, you know, and there's the architects, and there's the mathematicians. And I really believe that if we all tap into our truest essence, and we're all actively being our truest essence, we're in perfect harmony, because there's someone for everything.
Yes.
One person is playing the piano, and one person is building homes, and one person is gardening, or, you know, many are doing each one, but we're a perfect ecosystem complementing each other with our own unique gifts.
Yes. Oh, it makes me want to cry. I would love to live in a culture that had that be the base of the foundation. I mean, in my worldview, I believe that there have been cultures like that of humanity way, 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 way long ago. But yeah, I feel like we're begging for that to emerge. I feel like there's a call from the unconscious level, like the unconscious group of humanity that's like something needs to change. There's so much chaos, there's a lot of stress, and it's always in our face. And this creative expression that represents our beingness is getting lost, and it hasn't been valued because we've valued, you know, technology, which technology can be a creative endeavor. It doesn't have to be labeled as bad or wrong. So yeah, I'm feeling that so deeply. And it's just like, oh, wow, yes, I can tune into what a reality would look like. And on an individual level, like if you've witnessed this in your own life, in your own experience, that when you allow that creative part of you to come out, if you will, then it does things to you. It changes you. It makes you a happier person. It makes you a more balanced person. At least that's been my experience of myself with it. I mean, you can share with me what it's been like for you and for other people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of my creative outlets is going to coffee shops
I love
and
that.
basking in the beauty of them, and having the experience of the cute cup and who I meet there. And actually, one of my new things for 2025 is I was really sitting with what lights me up. And
Mm.
one of the things is going to coffee shops, another is giving gifts and creating magical moments. So I decided to do something new this year where every month I go to a new coffee shop. I'll document it, of course, and I will give away a gift card from that. I'll do a giveaway so that I can just share the love, share the magic, and then someone from my Instagram page, a follower, can have the same, not the same experience, but get that gift card, go to the coffee shop. So again, it's my form, and I just come to life.
Yes.
And I don't, there's a time when I would try to make it wrong or oh, this shouldn't be one of the things that fills me up, but now I just embrace it.
Mm.
It lights me up, and that's it. And to your point, I feel that so deeply too. I believe there's an emergence of people deeply desiring for more. And instead of, I always say, do not ask the world what the world wants from you. Ask what you want to give the world.
Mm.
And
So good.
this isn't going to happen overnight, but we can hold the vision, and I'm witnessing it, of it happening one by one by one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with breath. We don't have to just all of a sudden dedicate an hour and a half of breath work every day to our lives. It's one breath at a time. It's one moment at a time. It's choosing one more moment where I'm calming and I'm connecting my truest essence, and then choosing another moment where I'm calming and connecting to my truest essence, and then choosing another moment, because that's doable.
Oh yeah.
That's doable, but it can feel so overwhelming to think we have to change everything about us and figure it all out all at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and I do believe too that those moments lead you to the synchronicity. And the
Yes.
synchronicity is what then connects you to who you're meant to be and what you're meant to experience here. It's profound when you wake up and let yourself notice and recognize, like, oh, I had this thought or I needed this thing, and 3 days later, here it is. It just showed up. Maybe someone gave it to you, or this happens to me actually a lot, where I'm like, I really need this thing, and 3 days later, someone will gift it to me, and I'm like, wow, that's really nice. It's like it's a form of abundance, and when we get into that state of creativity and that openness, like a big impression that I have from what you've shared about the breath work is that it helps our bodies open, which help our soul open so that more of those synchronistic type moments come forward.
Yes. Yes, exactly. It creates this, whatever, however you want to describe it, exactly what you said, and this new space and place and a pause where, if we're rushing, if we're, okay, hi, how are you? Good, fine, bye, off to the next thing, next to-do list, like we have our whole entire calendar filled down to the minute, which is what I have traditionally always done. It's like, oh, 30 minutes there, and then I'll drive there 10 minutes. And I realized that two parts. Before I change what I'm doing, like before I get out of the car, I'll take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and I'll just center myself. And exactly what you just said, I'll give myself that space for allowance of, let's call it, magical moments to be synchronicities, because I'm slowing down and I'm now in this open state for all that wants to be. And I believe that's love, like room to love and be loved, because I really believe that's our purpose. So we can facilitate that with just one breath. We can facilitate that with not packing our schedule so tight. Maybe instead of just giving yourself 5 minutes to run in and grab that coffee from the coffee shop, it's giving 10 minutes to look that barista in the eye, to just have a moment of presence, to maybe bump into someone, talk to a stranger, because maybe they are the key to exactly what you've been looking for. Maybe a new friend, a work venture. like you said, for what you've asked for, because we are here to get to relish in what we desire in life, like, ultimately. And it can happen more easily when we have space.
Yeah.
And the space happens when our nervous system is calm, it's open, it's ready, it's loving, and we can get there through our breath.
That's so beautiful. Oh, that just feels so good. Oh yeah. I notice it too in myself when I try to fill the space. I'll even notice it if I'm in conversation, like when I'm interviewing people on podcast, or if I'm having a conversation with my neighbor, I'm like, we have gotten uncomfortable with space.
Yeah.
Or when I say we, I'm kind of projecting, because like
Yes.
maybe I have gotten uncomfortable with space at times, and I have to consciously remind myself, like, it's okay to have a space. You don't have to always say something. You don't have to always fill your calendar. You don't always have to do, go. You just have to be. And I love what you said, like breath is a way to get there, which is so amazing. Okay.
I think we add, as humans, when the contrast comes, when what we don't want comes, we judge it and we criticize it and we make it wrong. And that adds more resistance and more distance between, let's say, our truest essence and what is, or that joy and what is. And the more we say, this is bad, this is wrong, how should I get out of this? It's harder to get out.
Yeah.
But when we actually begin to appreciate the contrast, it brings us closer to it dissipating, because we're not fighting it, creating more resistance, creating more wrongness. So it brings us, then we can more easily shift and actually say like, thank you, contrast. Thank you, thing I don't want, because you're showing me what I do want.
And oh yeah, Bashar talks about that all the time.
Yeah. And Abraham Hicks too. They say we as humans all the time say we don't want that. We just want to be in the joy, but really those are the expanders. And we can also think of all the triggers too, right? It's the same thing. We can say, ooh, I don't want to be triggered. I don't like being triggered. Being triggered is bad. Okay, what if it's not bad? What if it's actually good? What if it's a way to show us where there's more to be felt and healed and looked at, and we can think it? So I think the fastest path to joy is to appreciating the opposite of joy.
Oh, yes. So in that case, like if contrast, like something bad or negative that we would label happens, then rather than going down the negative spiral of like, oh, this is so terrible, this is so bad, I can't believe this is happening, like kind of like the more victim side, or at least that's what I hear when I hear those thoughts, like, oh, I feel so bad for myself, or how terrible is this, da, da, da. It's like asking, how is this great? How is this helping? What can I get out of it? What's the benefit? Thank you for this. Like, I think Bashar, I've heard him say before that choosing or experiencing what you don't prefer helps you then know what you do prefer. So both are valuable. So that makes sense to me. So you answered my question of like, how do we make being in our joy easier? And it's by appreciating that which is not joy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And to piggyback what we've been talking about of breath work, breathing, I would say consciously, breath work helps us physiologically shift, because our brain is shifting from only focusing on that negative to opening up and being able to have a new perspective. Because when the nervous system is calm, how much easier is it, right, to be like, oh, this is happening for me. There's a light at the end of this tunnel that I can't see. There's a beautiful lesson that's unfolding that I can't see.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in fight or flight, though, in my experience, I have no capacity for that.
Oh yeah, no, me neither. I'm like not
Like, this is
focused
the
on
worst.
that. This is the worst thing ever. Get me out.
It's the worst thing ever. No lesson could possibly make this pain worth it.
Yeah, or to make it justified.
Yeah.
I think that that happens a lot when I work with people with trauma, like really intense trauma. There's a gap or a distance, an inability to feel, let me put it this way. There's an inability for them to comprehend a possible reality where that experience could have helped them in some way, which was actually one of the most offensive things at the time that one of my therapists, when I was going through healing a lot of my trauma, told me was like, well, has this helped you or done something good? I don't remember how she said it, but it was that idea of like, is there even a possible reality where you could imagine that this, what we would consider a terrible, horrible, awful experience is actually serving you? It could be spun in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's hard for us to wrap our heads around. But at the same time, to your point, I think that it's kind of like that saying, the way to the other side is through, not around.
Yeah. And I really think that sometimes we try to make too big of jumps at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, you can tell me your experience, but I think even actually for myself, when I was in my darkest moments, I wasn't able to jump to joy.
Yeah.
I was just wanting to get out of pain.
Right.
So as a guide, I think that it's important, again, to assess where the client is at
Mm-hmm.
and take them one bit at a time.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's like, okay, yeah, joy was not a priority for me when I wanted to end my life.
Right.
Like just getting out of the pain
Mm-hmm.
a little bit
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
was
it's kind of like
was the
triaging
goal.
in a hospital. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you're not looking for somebody or a patient that comes to the ER with a gaping wound that's bleeding out to be like, well, how are you feeling today? How did your day go? Are you stressed? It's like, no, you got to deal with the freaking wound where their blood's coming out. Like, you got to triage and handle the thing that, whatever. And then once you get the wound taken care of, then, weeks later, then you could start asking them, like, what was this experience like for you? How's your day? Are you stressed or not? It's like there are levels and yeah, different ways to approach the steps to getting there, which I know we're kind of blending different conversations, but with the whole like idea of what Bashar and Abraham Hicks teach, I think that they've been helping humanity like get there. Like, we've been
Mm-hmm.
trying to get out of pain for so long, and we're evolving to a degree where we can have the option of stepping into our joy more available to us and to the creativity and all the things we talked about earlier. So yeah, I think that's a really
Mm-hmm.
powerful shift that we're all going through right now.
Mm-hmm. And they really make clear that what we as humans, we want to keep talking about the problem. We want to keep talking about the health issue. We want to keep researching it. We want to, I mean, in therapy, so often we're just keep talking about the story that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that keeps us stuck there.
Right.
So it's shifting and beginning to, yeah, little by little, feel what it feels like to feel what we do want instead of what we don't want.
Mm-hmm. So good. I love that. Having so many thoughts like flood in, but I'm gonna go down so many rabbit holes.
I know. The other thing too, though, that I'm still, is just how they say that, if you're in a situation where you're experiencing the contrast, what you don't want.
That's a great way to put it.
When you're experiencing that, it's feedback for, I mean, it's so hard to handle, I think, because like realizing that we are the only one to, like, we have attracted that.
Mm-hmm.
And that, oh, so hard to
The
comprehend.
responsibility.
I don't want to be responsible for my life going in a direction that I don't want to go, but yeah, that humility, I guess, to realize, okay, that was me and that's feedback. And now how do I get myself, how do I turn my attention? How do I turn my focus onto what I do want and who I do want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'll tie it back to like these bracelets, like these have helped me get out of so many of the contrasting moments or contrasting experiences that continue and like contrasting periods of my life,
Mm-hmm.
where all of a sudden then I'll have a moment or I'll consciously decide to give someone a bracelet and it like snaps me out of that spinning, painful, contrasting period. It gives me hope for a moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a light in the darkness.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. So if somebody wanted to work with you, which I don't know why they wouldn't after this conversation, how could they do that? How could they get in touch with you?
Well, I have everything on my website. I have a free 9-minute breathwork meditation download available on my website. I am also this year offering a free hour-long deep breathwork session every month available to anyone. I just want to share the power of this breathwork. I offer my Coastal Calm fine art photography collection on my website, again, as a visual way to calm the nervous system. And of course, we can connect on Instagram and those platforms too.
Okay. And what's your website?
www.jamielovelyn.com. So that's JamieLovelyn.com.
I love it. And the Instagram handle?
Jamie.Lovelyn. And that's it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, this has been so amazing. Are there any other thoughts that you'd like to leave us with or anything, any closing thoughts?
I would just say one breath can change everything. So that one pause, that one coming home to one breath, that is so powerful.
Yes. Yeah, the most simple things seem to be the most powerful, I've come to find. It's like we don't need the complex this, that, or the other. It's literally something that you have with you every second of every day is the answer.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I loved this conversation.
I loved it too. I feel so lit up and full and so deeply connected to you. And I appreciate your wisdom and your expertise. And you articulate things so beautifully. And I feel like really get to the heart of the matter and of connecting to people. It's amazing to witness. You're amazing. Thank you so
You're
much.
amazing.
All right. Until next time.
Bye.
If you love this episode and or maybe others that you've listened to, please leave a review wherever you're listening to this. Share it with somebody that you think it could help. That's the biggest way you can help me help even more people like us. And if you want one-on-one support, feel free to go to findinghomehealing.com and schedule an intro session with me there. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you in the next one.